Yeah, so this is a quick commentary just to explain some things for Artificer. So I'll be going through the whole fight and kind of just going over the general rate positioning. To begin with, this note is just to say who's doing C's, and you have the backup on the right in case the people on the left are fixated. These are the phases, 80, 60, 50, 30. These are the general timings they'll have for them. Obviously, it may change if, how much gear we have and whatnot. Lifts don't really matter too much unless you're a tanker or healer, but it's just when we have the big explosions. So a big difference that we have here on Mythic compared to Heroic is that so melee are still marked with star and range is still marked with orange, but now melee are going super far out, right? So melee are going up to here and range are going down to there. Contrary to how we have it in Heroic. So just bear in mind to keep that in mind. But this first part's pretty straightforward. Nothing really happens here. We can pop cooldowns on pull. So yeah, notice the feet, DK is taking it out, and then the mage went down to orange. Spirits are super easy in this phase, no reason to ever mess this up, but these don't move too quick, so don't like rush. I actually go back too early. Well, it didn't matter, but see, I thought this one was mine. But you notice mine was actually like over here. So I actually have a lot of time. It's important to really get a good feel for how much time you have for later phases where they have the seas exploding. Um, but I'll touch more on that later. And then I think there's a clip already where you can see me writing out when the seas are exploding. But I'll touch on that when we get to the seas themselves. So for traps, kind of same before, you see a DK clearing. We'll script something for our own mythic clear depending on who we have in. But what we've been doing on Heroic's been fine. It's not too big of a deal, especially for baiting correctly. And I'll explain the baiting stuff coming into this. So here we're at between X and green. So this is to not spawn the ghost between where we are and the portal because the range have to run out the seeds. So like when we're doing seeds, right, the portal will be over here, and if we spawn ghosts around here, we'll have problems running through, right? So we spawn the ghost here instead. So everyone has to be back here. So we bait the ghosts here. They spawn, now we can move up. And the runners aren't going to get screwed by having things in their way. In this case, actually, I think the runners can already move the seeds before the fixate spawn. So rather, what this means is that the runners won't come back to spawns here. They can safely just go straight back to the portal and have time to like have time between this movement of the ghost to go back into the portal and pop up down again. If that makes sense. Oops. Anyway, just move it back afterwards. Now, we don't want to push to 60 until we get the next set of seeds exploding. This is important just for spell queuing. The same sort of shenanigans that we have to deal with on a fight like Zookful. I will be moving to green debate. We just have some time, and I'm just trying to be efficient with my casts and whatnot. A little ramp, you know. One thing to note is that so the ghosts aren't showing up on my boss mod. That's because boss mod's stuck on this fight. So I kind of just have to understand that a lot of things that change whenever there's like a reset in phases. The boss mods don't show what's correct, and then sometimes they just don't show what's correct anyway. But especially when there's a change in phase, the first ability after won't be always right. So just keep that in mind. Anyway, yeah. So once you see the explosions, is basically when you can push it, and we have the ghost behind as expected. Now I'm actually standing in a bad spot. This is incorrect. I should not be standing here. Reason being is that we don't want to bait traps along this wall, or along the path that we're gonna take on the suck, which is like this. All right. We actually want to bait the seeds or the traps rather over here. So I'm kind of trolling, but it's not super important because we cleared this first set anyway. But just something to keep in mind during this phase in general. So what we're gonna do for the Annihilate is that we're gonna Windrush against the wall. Or start this first one here. Second one will be over here, but it doesn't actually matter. They can both be here. They can't both be here. I think this wall is actually worse. There's a little less space. Anyway, Windrush and like just running up against the wall is good. You don't need to use any mobility here. But if you are a class that has mobility for every single Annihilate, and you aren't doing seeds and don't need it for that, you can use a mobility spell on all of these. Now, if you don't have mobility for every Annihilate, I don't actually recommend it. So, like, if your only mobility is Rocket Jump, unless you're for sure gonna die, you shouldn't use it because there are nastier overlaps that you will need mobility to counteract, most likely. So, Door of Shadows is always up for every Annihilate, so I can always use it. Rocket Jump isn't. So it's actually important for me to save Rocket Jump for an emergency. Anyway, I have a clip of how to handle this fixate here with the explosions. That'll be in the Artificer channel. Anyway, we need to bait back at green. We have to set up the next Annihilate Seed Fixate combo is the most nasty part of the fight, okay? The one where we're at like 30%, 38%. So everything has to be set up like perfectly for this to maximize your chances of doing it right. So all the traps, all the fixates need to be baited way past green. Blue needs to be clear for getting pulled in. Blue also has a seed on it, so it's actually super important that no one spawns anything on the seed. Barrier for the Unleashed Power does some damage there. Now look, everyone's like dying. Fixates are out that are baited properly. And we're gonna get the seeds, and we're gonna get a pull. Alright? So for the layman, for the average dude, we're kind of just running into moon. And it's pretty straightforward, right? We just run into moon. In the Windrush. I'm gonna do my door shadows thing and all that stuff. But you don't need to, you can just run straight. If you run against the wall, you should be fine. It's just always kind of scary, but you will be fine. I think I rocket jumped there and I did on door shadows. Because that is actually the last important mobility like overlap. So the reason why it's important to save mobility for this is because these fixates are actually super tricky. So the fixate ends before before the extinction cast is over, but you're still getting sucked in. So like you need to let's go to the start. You need to run through. If you have abilities, the easiest way to do is to run through. Okay, wait a few seconds until your dude's like in mid or so. Alright. Go back, and then since you aren't in the Windrush, you need mobility to not get sucked in. Makes sense? So if I had it, I would take it, and then I would spam my door shadows at like 2.5, 3 seconds on Annihilate, and then let myself get sucked in. If I was a hunter, I would just disengage, whatever you need to do. If you're a DK, I don't know, disadvance or switch to goblin so you can jump. Now, The biggest thing that I'm not actually able to touch on too much here that's super important is the actual seed running itself, because I'm obviously not running the seeds, right? So I'll try and find some clips and stuff for you guys on that, but it is actually kind of hard. This overlap's super nasty, but there's definitely like a methodical way to do it, even if you're fixated. And like I said, we have backups anyway. So if we have like, say, Clam and Chasel both had fixate, they would have to call it, and we have someone prepared for backups. So you shouldn't have to do it while you're fixated, but if you need to, it is actually possible. But anyway, we'll plan on backups for that, and I'll try and find some good clips for you guys. But after that, it's really easy. We just do the same baits, but the overlaps aren't as bad. Just gonna skip ahead a little bit. Alright, yeah, so this obviously no reason to fuck up here. It's just like the last seed, so call for backups if needed and all that good stuff. We'll be running into the wall again. These traps are kind of spooky, so we need to make sure. Oh yeah, so yeah, we actually like quickly called for DK to break them because getting sucked into that would be not great. So yeah, it's pretty easy because the seeds are way later. Um, and boss is so low that even if a couple people will get hit or die, it's not the end of the world. But yeah, that's the fight. Um, so yeah, there's two. Basically, all seed runners need to learn the two big overlaps, which are basically the first and second annihilates. And I'll try and find some clips on that. All right, that's kind of shit. All done in like one recording, but we'll get better at those as time goes on. So whatever.